I'm like here. I'm an American who lived in Germany for 2 years. I'll be coming back to Germany in a couple months once the pandemic allows me to travel back to Germany. If you're new here, when I was living in northern Germany, specifically Oldenburg, I got hit by a car while riding my bike, and at the time I didn't want to talk too much about it. It was a very traumatic experience, as you can imagine. But now I'm going to talk about it, give some more details, and share what I learned about the German healthcare system. Also, if you want to support my YouTube channel, if you want to see more cultural difference videos that I make, I would really appreciate it if you would check out my Patreon page I linked below. My goal is to have YouTube hopefully helping me out with the rent in Hamburg. Thank you so much to my 6 Patreon supporters. You guys know who you are. Thank you so much. I am like halfway to my goal on Patreon on being able to afford living in Hamburg while I search for a job. If you join at a certain tier, I'll make a video just for you, so let me know what kind of video you want. I'm going to be sharing clips and videos throughout this video, so I'm sorry if this is a little traumatizing. I don't look so great in these clips. On my old channel, I never mentioned that I was living in Oldenburg, just because when I was living in Oldenburg, it was just a tiny town, and I was afraid of people finding my location, so sorry about that. Because now I'm not living in Oldenburg, I feel safe to talk about it and share the news article that I was, well, not by name, but I was put in the news this day because they were needing more witnesses since there was no witnesses to my accident. So let's start with the morning. So I spent the whole night editing videos, which I learned my lesson now about editing videos, and it should be just on the weekend, not on work days or school nights, because then I can't really focus on things going on that day. Then I get on my bike, which is for me as an American from Southern California, Los Angeles area. I've always had a car, so a bike was new for me. But in Oldenburg, it's a bike city. I was in Oldenburg studying German at the university, so university level B1, B1 level German, and B2, and I was in the B2 course, this really hard German class, super hard German class. My professor was a very, I would say, a typical German professor. For one thing, she was amazing at teaching German, and I just loved her teaching so much. She made something so complicated, German, and she made it somehow really easy to understand. And so I knew also German professors, which is new for most Americans. University where I went to in California, it was very casual. People would come in late all the time. The professors don't say anything. It just is really no big deal to most professors. So I had to get used to that in Germany, that you need to be on time because the German professors take it very personal when you come in late. They've given the class a lecture only a couple weeks before saying, when you guys are late, it makes me feel you don't respect me. So knowing that that was the cultural difference, I knew it was really important to her. I wanted to get to class on time. And being an American, I don't know, or maybe just me, I'm always kind of forgetting things or running late. Finally, I ran out of my WG, Studentenwohngemeinschaft. I hop on my bike, I was very comfortable with it. Oldenburg's set up for bikes. There's like the bike lane on the sidewalk for most of the time. Here's where I meet another cultural difference in Germany. So the crosswalks, the walk sign, the hand sign is totally different than Los Angeles. Here in America, you have the walk sign, which is a little white guy, and I'll put images. And then it blinks a hand, which says, you shouldn't enter right now. If you're not already in the crosswalk, you shouldn't enter. But if you're already in the crosswalk, just continue to get to the other side. That's what the blinking hand means. And then it becomes red and stop. In Germany, well, in Oldenburg, it goes from, and it's been a while now, so I've been home for 6 months, so my German's very rusty now, but we'll see in a couple months when I go back to Germany. Hopefully that comes back. The light is green for the people, and then in about 3, 2, 1, red. And so what I noticed, and if you're from Oldenburg, you'll probably witness this on the corner where I was hit by this car, everyone tries to catch up with the others to get across the street, like especially right when the bus gets out, to get to the other side, because these lights are just really short. And if there was one thing I could change, is to change the crosswalks in the university area so that it's safer, because so many groups of big students are crossing. And
so many groups of big students.
It's not just me who did this. So I feel like the lady that hit me should have been looking in the direction to where the group was coming, because I was one of the people in the back of the group. I saw this guy and I tried to get right behind him on my bike, but I think there was just a big enough space to where her eyes were on that guy and her eyes were not on me right behind him. So like I saw him right in front of me and I was like almost getting behind him, and that is the point when I felt metal on my body. I checked the area when I crossed and I didn't see any moving cars. Everything seemed very calm. So it was very confusing to me, and I'm still dealing with this kind of confusion of trusting myself now, because I had a feeling that everything was safe and it wasn't. And the crazy thing was I saw her from far away, which was weird that she didn't see me and I saw her. I saw her coming this way and she was turning right and I was going, you know, I don't know, towards the university. So I'm like this close to the corner. Like I was so close to getting on the sidewalk when she hit me. She was swinging around the corner. And so she hit me from the side. I started where that first pink dot was, and I ended where the second pink dot was by the tree. And at this point, it was all just kind of went black. I felt the feeling of the metal hitting the side of my body, but I didn't know how I got from that point to the ground. It was kind of crazy what happens to the body when you get this adrenaline rush. The thing I felt though, the thing I tried to forget, but it was really clear at the moment, was the feeling of my face getting crushed. I felt the pressure on my jaw, like, and I thought I was feeling my jaw just like cracking, like, so sorry for the visual. I just felt the car rolling on top of me. I thought the car was gonna just roll right over me. I thought this was, you know, the last moment, and maybe you've had this last moment view of your life sort of flash before you, sort of like, it was kind of like that for me. I didn't know how severe or not severe it was. I just thought I'm gonna probably have to have my face put back together. I don't know.
Oh shit, I had aggro.
Move. So I felt like she wasn't stopping. So I was screaming. I remember just screaming because I felt she was not stopping. And so finally I felt her stopping, and I felt the crushing of my jaw a little bit release, and I was like, oh my god, because the jaw was the worst part for me, and then my legs also, I don't know. So I couldn't move. My body was just crushed. I couldn't move. I didn't know why I couldn't move. I didn't know if something was broken. So at this point, I remember shaking and then someone putting a foil blanket over me. And I learned from my last video when I talked about this that in every German car, it's one of the rules in Germany, you have to have a first aid kit in the back of your car, which is really cool. That's not something that is checked in America, but not that I know of. So I remember like just being thankful for that blanket because I was freezing, and this was the first warm day as well of the year. So I was wearing my thin jeans, my favorite jeans, luckily 2 jackets, maybe that helped somehow. I was wearing my Vans, which were not the best shoes at all to be wearing when you get hit by a car. So my ankles got pretty scraped up. So then the paramedics show up. I just remember being so thankful, and also thankful that I had been learning German for about 2 years at this point, because they didn't try to speak to me in English, so maybe they could have, but I spoke to them in German, and they just were like taking every precaution to put me on the board, you know, because they didn't know if something's broken, they don't want to further hurt me. So they put me on the board, and they put me in the paramedics, and they asked me, wie viel Schmerzen haben Sie? Von 1 bis 10, so like how much pain do you have from 1 to 10, and at that point I was like 7, like 7, it was really bad at that time, and so they gave me, and I'm afraid of shots and stuff, and I didn't even care, I was like, go for it, like they put the IV thing in me, gave me the pain medicine through this thingy, and then here comes the scissors, they're cutting off my clothes, which was the part I never expected from this sort of accident. I don't know why I didn't expect that. But of course, you know, because they needed to see my wounds, see how bad it was. Me being me, I was like, because my favorite jacket, it was zipped up, and I was like, bitte. And I was like trying to tell them, please, can I just, they were really nice. They very carefully unzipped my jacket, took that off, and then they cut my jeans off. So I'm like, oh wow, okay, here I am in a foreign country in my bra and underwear with all these paramedics. Actually, the last video I made about this topic, it had 100,000 views or more. And someone commented, one of the top comments was, he said, I was one of the paramedics in there with you. It's really nice to see that you're doing good, but of course they're professional, and so in my head I'm like, oh god, he saw me in my underwear, but I'm sure that's not what he was thinking. He was just happy that I was okay. I didn't know if anything was broken either. I thought for sure my jaw was broken, because this was the crazy part. When I was on the ground, I just thought my jaw was for sure broken, because, you know, your teeth when they're aligned like this, when I was on the ground, my teeth were like this. I couldn't bite down all the way. They were not centered on top of each other. So this is why I was convinced my jaw was like out of alignment. So in the ambulance, I still couldn't bite normal. And then we got to the hospital. We went to the ER, which was like, I've never been in the hospital before, so I wish I could compare it to the American hospitals. But my uncle's an ER doctor, actually. So I asked him and I told him about everything that happened. And he told me it's very similar to what he would have done in his ER in America. So that was interesting to know. So we get there. At this point, I start feeling my jaw coming back. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not religious, but like if I was religious, I was like praying, please let everything be okay, because I don't want to be all put back together again. So in the newspaper article, it said that I slid 10 meters, and I had to Google what that is. That's the size of an American school bus.
3.3 feet.
That's how long I slid. And I honestly think my bike is what saved me from having.
Wait, no, I'm an idiot. That's over. That's like 30 feet.
Imprint on my face, and I think the bike just was on top of me, and I was sliding next to the bike. I think that's why the car didn't roll over me, and it kind of pushed me down. And maybe the speed of the car helped too. So anyway, I'm at the hospital in the ER. I'm hearing their conversation. Kann Sie Deutsch sprechen? And I heard the other say, ja, sehr gut. And I'm thinking to myself, oh my God. The one thing I couldn't answer was the thing about my jaw, because I didn't know the word for jaw. So now I know it's Kiefer. Mein Kiefer tut weh. And then also the back of my head, there was a spot that was bloody because I wasn't wearing a helmet. And if you check around Oldenburg, over 50% of the people don't wear helmets, which was also new for me. To see so many people on bikes.
That does not mean that you shouldn't do it.
The reality is how dangerous it actually is to be on a bike without a helmet. And so if I get back on a bike, I'll definitely think about wearing a helmet next time. Because it really hurt, because when I was on that board, I had to be flat, with no pillow behind me. And so that open wound was on the board. It hurt so bad. I had a nurse check for me, and she said it looked okay. They didn't need to put stitches or anything. And then I felt a lot of dirt in my mouth. I think it was from sliding along the ground. And I didn't know if I had broken teeth, so I had to go to the dentist. I'll get to that later. So at the hospital, I went to get x-rays. They wanted to do x-rays of everything. And especially my hips, because I was telling them my hips hurt really bad because I got rolled right on my hips. So, and my knee hurt. I had a huge wound on the inside of my knee. They washed my wounds for me. That was not as bad as I was expecting. I thought it was going to burn more than it did. So I felt very proud of myself to say. I'm usually very scared of doctors and pain and stuff, but I think my body was like, yeah, you survived that. I guess you'll be okay. So I waited for my x-rays to get back. Miraculously, they found no broken bones. I was like, what? Like, I thought for sure my jaw, just because of how it was not aligned, but then it took 2 hours, I believe, to wait for the x-ray things to come back, which I was really surprised by that. But, I'm so thankful because German healthcare. Here's the first difference here. A week before this, I had switched from my traveler's health insurance to German, like the real good public health insurance. So everything from this accident, the paramedic ride, getting treated in the hospital, my doctor appointments after the hospital, the dentist appointment, didn't have to pay for any of that. It's just I was paying the student healthcare price, €90 a month. So this, as an American, is just mind-blowing because usually in America we have our healthcare programs. Unless you're very poor or earning under $15,000 a year, you can get on some Medi-Cal in California, which California is special. Most states don't have what California has. And then you can get free healthcare, like free. You don't have to pay for anything, at least from my understanding. But yeah, if you make over $15,000 in America, you have your health insurance, which is going to be at least $200 a month. And then every time you see a doctor, it's going to be a $45 copay. So every time you see a doctor for anything, any question, here you go, $45. All right, I have a question, here it is. And then the treatment can be $70. The medicine can be $70. I'm speaking from experience here. It sucks. Like, you do not want to go to the doctor when you have health insurance in America because you have to pay so much. You don't want to get medicine. So everyone's just here. My experience, everyone avoids the doctor if you can. In Germany, when I had my health insurance, it's like I'm paying every month, but I don't have to pay when I see the doctor. I don't have to pay for treatment, at least not in my experience when I was in Germany. I'm sure you guys can let me know in the comments down below your experience with your German healthcare. I know from my understanding it's expensive if you don't have public health insurance in Germany. Like if you're self-employed, you have to buy your own private health insurance, I think, and that can be very expensive, I've heard. But if you just have a job in Germany from an employer, it's pretty great. I Didn't have to pay for the ambulance, nothing. I paid nothing. Like, I was so shocked. This bill was over $2,000. I definitely expected to pay some, half of it. I don't even know. In America, you have to pay $500 usually for the paramedic ride. I learned through this that soft injuries, so just getting your muscles smushed, your body parts smushed without the bones breaking, can be just as like long to heal as the bones breaking. So it was crazy when she told me. The nurse came and she's like, "Okay, nothing's broken. You can leave." And I was like, "What?" Because also I had a huge concussion, which I don't think they recognized that. But when I got home later, my head was swelling like crazy. Yeah. So I chose not to stay in the hospital, which I probably should have looking back. But I was so cold. I don't know. I was just so cold. I wanted to go home. Maybe it's because I'm from California and I'm just cold everywhere. But the funny part was when she said I can go home was I tried to stand up and my legs, the muscles to move my legs from the bed onto the floor wouldn't work. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I was like, Entschuldigung, können Sie bitte mir helfen? Like, can you please help me? And she's like, oh, brauchen Sie ein, what's it called? A wheelchair? She got me the wheelchair and wheeled me out to the waiting room where it was my boyfriend at the time, picked me up from the waiting room, and he was shocked. He's like, oh my, like, I forgot the words he said in German. I wish I recorded it, but he's like, oh meine Güte, like, he was just freaking out. So he couldn't speak English, so he was telling me in German phrases like how bad I looked. And I remember there was confusion because the nurse was asking if I had my tetanus shot. In German, it sounds so similar, and I don't know why, looking back, I couldn't understand that they were saying tetanus shot, because in German it's like tetanus. Because of the misunderstanding, I had to go to the doctor the next day to get this tetanus shot, you know, just in case there's any rust that got into my body from the street. Getting to his car was hard. I had to help me in just little baby steps. So now it's like I understand now how hard it is for someone to walk after they've had an accident. It's really hard. So he helped me get up the stairs. I had to go one stair like at a time, and I was on the 4th floor. It was just super hard. And then getting to the doctor was hard. I was terrified of the cars the next day. I was terrified of crossing the street. I just didn't trust cars to stop for me even when it was green for me. I looked at things way differently after this. I kept thinking in my head like, tief durchatmen, like deep breath. Like, if I could have taken just one deep breath and not been in such a hurry, I would have just stopped at the light, let the group go, just wait for the next light. Like, oh, that wouldn't have happened. I had to miss a week of German because my brain, just the concussion was so bad. And yeah, so I ended up having to drop out of my German class because then we had the Easter break, and then it was just really hard at this point, and I had missed just too much work. So then I had my dentist appointment. This was after a couple weeks when my knee wound was healing more, so I could kind of do more things. It was just so painful still, but I have a memory of going into an apotheke, the pharmacy, and I was asking for bandages. And I showed the woman that my wound. This was like a week after the accident, so I was like starting to heal at this point. I asked her for the right size, and she was like, "Oh mein Gott, like, hast du einen Arzt gesehen? Like, have you seen a doctor?" Like, she freaked out when she saw my knee, and I was like, "Oh no, hier ist eine Woche alt," or yeah, this is a week-old wound. She's like, "Oh, okay." So then she got me my Band-Aid, and yeah. So then I was on my way to the dentist. Dentist differences. Woo. I was really excited when I learned you get one free teeth cleaning a year with health insurance in Germany. You don't have that here. You always had to pay like upfront, cash, credit, whatever for your dentist. So the fact that I had this teeth cleaning included, which I think it's just the teeth cleaning. I think you have to pay for the other stuff you want to do at the dentist, but still, teeth cleaning. That's like here, $90 for teeth cleaning. So I was like, yay, free teeth cleaning. So the differences here, well, one, they were extremely friendly, these two women. It was great that I could speak to them in German. My dream was to live in a different country, to speak the language of the people at that country. And it was so exciting for me that I could do it. I could communicate to them, I could tell them what happened to me. I was in this car accident, and I'm here because I want to see if one of my teeth got chipped because there was all this dirt in my mouth. And I mean, my German's rusty right now, so I won't try to do that right now, try to say all that right now, but it worked at the time. So they checked for me, and I told her about my Kiefer, and I asked her if she could look at my Zähne and see if they were like good. So she said she saw one chipped tooth in the very back, but she said it's not a problem, it's not going to bother you. and there was one cavity in the back, and so I asked her if she could fix the cavity for me and I'll pay for it. First she did, I forget what she did first, but the thing with the teeth cleaning, that was different for me, and I don't know, I've only been to like 2 dentists as an adult in California, so maybe some are doing this, but for me it was totally new that she was using the little, you know, teeth scraper that she used was vibrating, and so it was like, oh my gosh, like a vibrating teeth scraper that was going over all the teeth, you know? I'm used to just the tool that they manually, with their hand, just scrape every part of the tooth. So she's like, yeah, I just prefer this. It just cleans so much better. And it kind of hurt sometimes when she got too high up. But besides that, I was like, wow, this is great. I don't know, it seems so high tech. Also, when I called, I had TK or Technica, and I really recommend them. When I called them, when I was struggling in German, when I was asking about the things about the dentist, this was before my appointment, I asked him like, hallo, ich habe eine Frage und es ist, bekomme ich eine umsonste Arzttermin für Reinigung? And he's like, yeah, you know, you can speak in English with me if you want. And I was like, what? Like, what? I was so not expecting that, because every time I've been on the phone with any customer service, in Germany at least, it's usually never English, is never an option. So this was really nice, because with the Wi-Fi, it was just such a headache in Oldenburg when I tried to call T-Mobile and I tried to call, because I kept buying like the wrong contracts because I thought I understood it and I didn't, and then you have to wait for someone to come to your house to set up your Wi-Fi, which is like, it was all so new for me, and then you have to wait all day. It's like, what? I don't know, in America, I don't know if that's how it goes. So I am moving back to Germany in a couple months. The things I'm looking forward to is definitely the healthcare. I'm looking forward to getting a job and having healthcare, not having to worry about it. Because here, and right now I have a job and I have healthcare, but I avoid the doctor because I don't want to pay for the doctor. And I'm excited to go back to Germany because I can just go to the doctor without being afraid to lose all my money. Like, even apparently I've heard if you get like a cancer diagnosis or something, in Germany your healthcare will cover that. In America, that's not my understanding. For my health insurance, I think it says there's like this amount that you have to reach and then they'll pay for it. So I think mine says something like $6,000. So once you pay out of your own wallet $6,000 for this big treatment, then they'll pay the rest. So, but in Germany, I don't think it works like that, where you have to meet this minimum before they pay for you. And this whole coronavirus stuff going on really makes you think as well, like, I think it's a bad idea to have for-profit healthcare. And I hope America will change and see that how in Germany, how much better it seems to be. And so, to conclude the video, so it took me about 3 weeks before I could actually walk again. And I think it took me almost 2 months before I could run, because there was this muscle in my right leg that just wouldn't let me lift my leg. I think that was the part that was crushed, my right hip. So that was kind of crazy for me that it took so long to heal. My face as well, my nose was swollen, my jaw was swollen. You can see in my photos, I think, like the jaw was very swollen. I couldn't eat for the first 24 or 48 hours because my jaw just wouldn't open. I think it was just so swollen. It kind of pops now when I open my jaw, but I don't know. Maybe it did that before. I don't know. My nose went back to not being so swollen. My forehead, I couldn't touch my face for the whole first week or two. Showering was really difficult because I couldn't lift my leg over the bathtub to get in there, so I had to it was a process. But I'm very thankful that nothing was broken, nothing permanent. And as long as I do some back exercises now, I'm okay. I think maybe from being in bed for so long, I was developing some back pain, but now I just do back exercises when I feel like the pain's coming back, and I'm fine. So now it's just mental with driving, and hopefully in the future I will be learning how to drive in Germany, which I'll be sharing that, I'm sure, with YouTube. I'm very scared of driving these days and cars going fast. But what happened with the police afterwards, me and the girl, she was actually from France, she had just gotten her license. We both had to go to the police station, have an interview, tell what happened, our side of the story. And so she told her side of the story. She said she was only looking to the right, she wasn't looking to the left, she didn't know where I came from, I just showed up out of nowhere apparently for her. And I told my story, how I saw her, she didn't look at me, didn't give me any eye contact, so I mean, that part, you know, now I know as a pedestrian, always have eye contact, do not trust that car see you. Because there was no witnesses, no one saw it, there was no recording of the accident, no fault was given, and they asked me if I want to have this lady have some sort of punishment. I forget the word for it in German. And I just said no. Yes, as a person who's driving a car, you should be always aware of your surroundings. So I think just the fact that I was on a bike, she was in a car, and she hit me, I think she had to pay €1,000 fee or something. And yeah, that was something that wasn't up to me. That was something the police were. I think when you have a new license, that's one of the rules, is if you get in trouble after your new license, you can get this sort of fee. And I didn't go to get the Schmerzengeld. I know a lot of people on my old YouTube video told me I should go after that, but I just wanted to be done with it. I didn't want to deal with it anymore. I didn't want to think about it anymore. I didn't want to go search for a lawyer to try to get this little amount of money that wasn't worth it for me at the time. So my YouTubers, my Patreon supporters, everyone that was supporting me at the time really like helped me get through it financially, because I had to fix my bike. My front wheel of my bike was just totally bent like this, the whole frame. So the quote of how much it was going to cost to fix my bike wasn't worth it. So I just gave it to the bike guy, and I rented a bike from a really great company in Germany. Love this company. They're not sponsoring this video or anything, but yeah, I used them for a week. They had really nice bikes, so I'll probably use them again in the future. It's a Dutch company. But careful with that company. You have to cancel your contract for a month before, otherwise they charge you for the next month. So I do see drivers in Germany as being quite fast compared to American drivers. The thing that was different too in Germany was these rechts for links rules. In the neighborhoods and lots of the streets, there's no stop signs. Like in America, we have stop signs everywhere, but in Germany, they trust the drivers to do this rechts for links rule, the right before left. So if you see a car coming on the right, they have the right of way, and then the person on the left can go. And I guess we have it here in the US too. It's just not as common, and I never knew about it till I went to Germany. But as Germans have told me, Americans' driving school and driving lessons are much simpler than the Germans, so they have to learn a lot in Germany. Anyways, hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know your thoughts down below, and have you also had an experience similar to this? Let me know. Okay.
Fuck.
It's too far away.
When you think of Germany, what do you think of?
I think of,
Strudel.
Strudel's good. I think of Oma and Opa and lots of beer. I did a job.
That's enough?
It was a copper.
Board?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Where they're like strapped on a board and they go upside down. And it's like S&M and like they're like chained to it. Oktoberfest, Wiener Schnitzel,
Yeah.
sauerkraut.
Do you know?
Pancakes.
That's pretty good. I didn't even know when I went there about the potato pancakes.
Yeah, with applesauce. Lots of applesauce.
Wow. How do you? Oh, because you have family from
Yes.
Germany, right?
He's right.
He was a German opera singer. One of my great-great-grandfathers, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Family from Germany.
Yeah. I've never been, though. I'd love to go. Too bad I stopped drinking. I'd love to go to Oktoberfest.
Dang it.
But
Timing.
Mercedes, I think both BMW, the cars, those are popular out here in California. Mercedes.
The Autobahn.
Punctuality and
Oh, yes.
Right? My boyfriend wears the watch every day, and it's like, is that a German thing?
Punctual, organized. My grandma was from Germany, my great grandma.
Ah.
It's always like on time, on the dot.
punctuality
Organization.
or organization.
So it gets passed down through generations.
Yes. Because we all have German heritage somewhat.
And if you were dating a German, would you expect something like stereotypical dating him?
I would hope you'd be punctual and organized. And have a nice big German sausage.
Oh god.
Hello, America. I would say I've been to Frankfurt. Okay, the airport once. I walked through the airport, and every single airport security guard there was like tall and like built, like amazing. I was drooling when I walked through. Chiseled jawline. Chiseled jawline.
Nice.
Thanks.
Punctuality and muscles.
And a very strong like dialect, like firm.
Ooh, what do you think of the language? Do you find it?
Like they're yelling.
You think so? It's not sexy to you? Imagine it.
How should I imagine?
That it's ordering you to do things to it.
It's telling me to do things to a schnitzel.
This video is gonna get taken down. When I first went to Germany, I had like stereotypes in my head about what I learned in history, and I was like curious if there'd be stories from that I would be learning from their grandparents. Maybe had stories about, but everyone who I knew, all my friends I met in Germany, they said they don't talk about it, the history.
I wasn't sure if we're gonna bring up that subject either.
Ready to go there.
No, I wasn't sure if we were gonna talk about the whole situation.
I'm all about what's it?
Pushing the envelope. Good video. Solid video.
What were some German stereotypes you thought of? And when you went to Germany, did any of those change, or did like what you thought actually was reality?
When I went to Germany, I thought that like it would be just a bunch of people wearing those like lederhosens, like all the guys wore those, like it was just how it was. And
Like everywhere.
like,
Well, we
everywhere,
didn't
all
see
the time.
one dude with lederhosen.
Berlin.
Oh yeah, we went to Berlin.
Not even
Yeah,
one person,
Berlin.
probably. Yeah,
There was
especially
no
in
lederhosen
Berlin.
in Berlin. Just nightclubs. Just nightclubs. Till the sun came up. So we started in Berlin, and then we went to Munich, and that's where everybody was wearing the lederhosen stuff. I always thought it would be kind of like Sound of Music. Have you guys seen that movie?
Singing in the hills.
With the Von Trapp family. Everyone eats potatoes and sausage and pretzels. And that's like the diet.
All day, every day.
You've been there, Oktoberfest?
Yeah, we went there.
Yeah, so Oktoberfest is always what the world is expecting from Bavaria.
The only other thing was the history part that we saw that was kind of like what you read in like school in your history class. You'd be like, oh wow, the Nazis and the this and the that. And then we went there and that was like, whoa, it's nothing like the book. It's just like an old building. It's just like, oh, this is a nightclub now. This is a historical building.
There's no ruins.
There's no, yeah, even the wall, the Berlin Wall is different than our history books, was it? Because
I
it's
would like
painted
this.
now. That day was so much fun. I remember.
Well, it doesn't really. The
Got
wall
the
does not
vending machine.
exist anymore.
Oh
Not
yeah,
really.
To
in
the
the
wall.
hostel there was a vending machine for beer. I forgot about
Yeah, and then we took them and walked across the street,
that. Public drinking in
public
Germany.
drinking at like the wall. We were just like, yeah.
Drinking the beer, walking, like, why can't we drink in public? I don't, in America, I don't get that.
Yeah.
Because you will shoot the guns when you
You know what was a big thing? The cultural thing is our nightclubs close at 2 in the morning.
Yeah.
And they don't get going until 2 a.m. in Germany.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some are not just open at 2 a.m.
Yeah, that was insane.
Right? It's like, how do you function? We couldn't. We were like, okay, the next time we want to do this,
We slept
this.
all day.
We slept all day because how do you?
You don't.
What? Why? You come
Yeah.
to America. Every German I know who we've shown here in the area of Southern California, a night out where we start at 10 p.m. drinking.
They're like, why now? We're like, because it closes and it's like
Yeah.
2, it's done.
That's crazy.
And we took the Autobahn.
Oh, we were so scary. You girls were like, yeah, we're going 120 plus
120.
miles per hour, and I'm like having a panic attack. Like,
You had to
No,
tell us,
thanks. No.
can you slow down?
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
like, this is the only time it's legal. You know where we live, we can't do this. So, when you guys think of Germany, what stereotypes pop in your head? What do you know about Germany? You've never been there, have you?
No.
No. Yeah, I haven't had there. The only thing I've kind of heard about is the Oktoberfest
Yeah.
and the drinking, and it's a crazy time out there.
Same. So I think Oktoberfest, beer, because Los Angeles has a lot of, like, not a lot, but German places, and all it is beer and sausage. So
German, yeah.
sausage. I think Germans have, like, pretty good fashion sense, at least the ones that kind of came to my college. Speaking isn't super sexy like French. It sounds a little aggressive, but their sense of style is
Hour
really
of re-
nice. Beer and
I think Hour of Reaping was one of those skills you want to have one of. But you want to stack Infernal Armor, I think. Right? Oh wait, I have it right here. Kind of. Almost. Yeah, exactly. One of them. Oh wait, Revel in Pain and Infernal are good stacks, but Revel in Pain is really good.
and sausage. And onions and sauerkraut. Yeah.
Sauerkraut, yeah. Heard that too, but yeah.
That's it.
That's it. Pretty much.
No, I asked the other girls if you were dating a German, what would you like? Is there stereotypes you would expect in the relationship, like differences maybe?
I can see maybe a little bit colder, maybe because of like how I like hear the language. So I just feel like business. I'm not as playful. And good fashion sense.
I'm trying to think.
Hairiness.
Oh no, because we have people from South Europe, so especially Turkish guys, and they have a lot of hairs everywhere. So I think the Germans don't.
Are you thinking
Okay.
of the
Compares to-
stereotype of
yeah.
like the women not shaving or something? Or-
No, I was thinking
yeah.
about the men being hairy, but
Yeah.
I guess not.
Now I am
There's
thinking
some.
about hairy
Yeah.
women though too now, but
You don't think of Nazis?
I mean, I kind of saw that little blonde kid in the background right now. We're at a park, and I did think very like Aryan, blonde, blue eyes,
yeah.
Wait.
kind of stereotype right now. But
I have.
no, wasn't. I think beer came to mind first, to be
Yeah.
honest. Don't know why, but it did. So when I think about Germany, I think about the deep-rooted racism that led to the Holocaust. And it makes me wonder if like the Aryan Nazi culture is still alive, how predominant it is.
Yes.
Being a person of color, it's very scary. They're like, whoa, this like,
What the hell just
this
happened?
like.
I don't know if I'll
Okay.
put that in the video.
I don't know where. No, I think every time I think about Germany, there always some type of history aspect, right? So of course, all of us, or I should say, I do think about Nazis and the war and all that stuff, but it's not the only thing I think about. The other thing I think about is Oktoberfest and the drinking and the craziness and everything that you tend to see.
And I think it's because
On
like our
TV.
generation is more, I think those are the things we
Party?
talk about.
Yeah.
But it is something that does come to mind as not just the food and culture, but the history behind it, and it kind of makes you wonder how that wasn't that long ago, and just like America 75 years ago wasn't that long ago, and there's still like deep-rooted issues, whether it's racism, like killing the black man, and you like see protests happening all around, so you wonder if we're still dealing with that here. I'm sure it's not just America,
Yeah, I'm
other
sure it's
places
everywhere.
have their issues that they're working out, and we're 75 years from now, it's probably going to be, I hope, even more developed, but it makes you think, how far have we gotten? How far has all these places with like a darker history gotten?
And I think it has to do also with the schooling.
Believe me,
also, and
America is a lot
they
worse.
typically teach you and all throughout school and all throughout high school and the history and courses, and that they teach you, and they always talk about all the wars and everything. All
World War II.
so it's like, I think just from how we were raised up and to think about history, you always associate Germany with Nazis in the war.
And there's also so many, just Hollywood. There's so many like movies
Yeah.
that come out
Hollywood
about it too.
movies and the TV shows and all that stuff. But it's not
Which
to
is why
say,
the language too. Everyone's like,
Yeah.
it's so harsh because what we're hearing in the movies is just
yeah.
like.
That's probably why, because I don't really think I hang out with too many Germans where I get to hear other things. But
Do you want to hear us speak German?
Oh, no.
Yeah.
I mean,
definitely.
I've heard you a little bit before, but
Alright.
yeah.
Sag etwas. I just say something.
Ja, wir sind heute an einem See und haben sehr gutes Wetter hier. Waren sehr lange wandern und sitzen jetzt in einer abgesperrten Area.
Okay, it doesn't sound that harsh.
No, yeah,
No,
it
at all.
sounds normal.
Yeah.
What did you say?
I just talked that we are on a lake and we had a long hike. And now we are sitting in this.
Half a mile hike.
Yeah.
We're sitting in this not allowed area.
Yeah.
So I guess like right now that didn't seem really harsh
No.
or aggressive at all. So it probably is because of the movies that we watch and
Yeah.
And I
Which
think
makes
it's
sense.
like some words, and they like pronounce it really hard when they compare it, like ambulance, and in German it's Krankenwagen. So I can. do
Saw
it
the
in
meme
my-
video.
Yeah.
Right.
Meme
In a sentence, I
video.
would say Krankenwagen. I think it's not that
Krankenwagen.
strong, but when you just focus on the word,
Okay.
it sounds really strong sometimes. Yeah.
Thanks, guys. That was really good.
hopefully we made up for the Americans.
Naturwissenschaft.
well, we met some people at
Science.
Oktoberfest. They were really nice. In fact, the first day we went, just us two, and we met with some friends that you had when you lived there. And that was really cool. They saved the table from the morning, like 9 a.m. or something.
Oh, yeah.
They got there. We were like, we're not gonna be there. We've been out at 4 a.m. So we slept in, and then we
Yeah.
met them there a little
Because
bit later.
they said in their experience you have to get to Oktoberfest super early,
Mhm.
but because we were girls, I think we had a different sort of expectation that we'll find room.
We'll find room wherever we go.
And the German guy you met, was he different than the American guys that you had talked to somehow, or was he just the same? Or
I guess he was kind of the same, but German and tall.
really tall, right? They were all like really
They
tall.
were all really tall.
Did you think the German people were taller than American people?
Hmm. Yeah, I think they were in general taller.
I don't know.
Wait,
There are a lot
what?
of tall people in America.
Yeah.
And how did you think of their accent, their English accent?
Mm.
Wait, Ludwig, right? You met a Ludwig, right?
I have his pin. I have a pin that says Ludwig. He gave it to me. Oktoberfest, you leave and they have after parties that go till the sun comes up.
What
and-
did you think of the music? It was good, right?
Oh my
German
gosh.
music is like the beat,
the
of, like,
dance music was
Yeah.
so good. It's way better. It's not just like turning on the radio and being like, okay, top 50 pop music.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It was like original beats, like the DJs were really into it. Oh my gosh, it was so
You
good.
have to listen to Boris Brecher.
it's from the Rhineland.
Oh yeah, I like the castles. We went to
Neuschwanstein.
Neuschwanstein. I don't know if I said that right.
It's the hardest
right,
thing to
that's
say.
right.
Will cash continue to be king in Germany? Will Americans stop engaging in small talk? And how exactly will the quintessential American college experience or German wellness activities be shaped by the coronavirus? I'm going to be talking about these topics and more in this video. Hey guys, what's up? It's Kelly again, and welcome back to my channel. I know you don't need me to tell you that coronavirus has dramatically altered our world as we know it. There are plenty of experts out there who have projected the impacts this pandemic will continue to have on the global economy, the climate, governments, and globalization. But what I want to do in this video is conjecture about what social norms, customs, and behaviors this pandemic has either challenged or affirmed in both US and German cultures, and pontificate a little about how this virus will drive change in our cultures even after we have a vaccine. When I think about some of the most primary differences in culture between Germany and the US, I often think about how a lot of facets of American culture point to individualism, and how a lot of facets of German culture point to collectivism, even though it's considered to be an individualistic society. And I think that this pandemic has truly highlighted this divide. While I believe that both Germans and Americans alike struggled with a lot of the different public health measures our governments put in place in order to help slow the spread of the coronavirus, I think that a lot of Americans were challenged for the very first time by having their behavior lawfully curtailed for the good of the greater community. In contrast, I think generally Germans were able to take this challenge much more in stride because a lot of their culture already revolves around doing what's best for their society at large, like recycling and reducing individual waste, following the rules, valuing equality, paying into strong social welfare programs, and even its education system. But with that said, I think that there are a few foreign traits that are slowly becoming more common among Americans. For example, and I've talked about this in past videos, generally, Americans don't like to correct one another. If you see someone doing something blatantly wrong, illegal, against the rules, dangerous, chances
Is
are
Heart of
Americans are
Darkness
not going
better?
to address that person's behavior.
Seems
They're just
so.
going to ignore them. But lately, I've noticed Americans correcting one another more than ever before. Whether it's telling someone to put on a mask when they're walking around outside, telling someone to move away from them in order to maintain compliance with social distancing measures, or telling a fellow customer that they aren't following the one-way arrows we now have in a lot of our grocery store aisles. I also think that more Americans are starting to think about community in a different way. We keep hearing this term essential workers, and especially in the beginning of the shutdown, when everything was far more uncertain than it is now, I think that a lot of Americans were beginning to recognize just how much we need each other and how valuable community is. That in a lot of ways, they are completely dependent on other people. And so the health and livelihood of these essential workers, and quite frankly, many others, directly impacts them. Another big difference between German and Americans are consumer habits. Germans tend to be more frugal and risk-adverse compared to Americans, who spend quite a bit more frivolously if their income allows it, and even if it doesn't. Americans tend to live in abundance and are more willing to flaunt designer goods and luxury items compared to Germans. Again, even if they can't comfortably afford it. There's even an entire idiom dedicated to describing this sort of behavior: keeping up with the Joneses. But the coronavirus has brought about one of the sharpest declines in US consumer spending, partially due to the biggest spike in unemployment in US history, and
Overwhelming.
partially because of the shutdown of brick and mortar stores, but also because a lot of Americans who weren't necessarily financially impacted by the coronavirus in terms of losing their job are still cutting back spending in preparation for a recession. Retail shopping has plummeted, which begs the question of whether this pandemic will have long-lasting impacts on American consumer habits, as Americans come down off their regular dose of shopping-induced dopamine and begin to reassess their financial priorities and decisions. Perhaps in the future, we'll see Americans leaning toward a more conservative style of consumerism like what you see in Germany. When it comes to consumerism, Americans are also used to getting what they want when they want it, as part of what's been described as a microwave society mentality. And so having stores closed, or having their food rationed, or seeing empty shelves at the grocery store was a big shock to a lot of Americans. But when it comes to spending and this virus, Americans do appear to have one advantage over Germany, which is when it comes to how those monetary transactions are made. Anyone who's watched my channel regularly has heard me talk about the cash culture of Germany and how cash is king in Germany. In fact, about 70% of all transactions in Germany are done via cash, compared to Americans who make only about 30% of their transactions with cash. But paper money and coins are filthy, playing host to a number of viruses and bacteria.
Oh, come on.
Passed from
Really?
person to person in all types of environments. So I'm curious to see if in the future Germans are more open to paying with electronic payments, whether it's with their phone or contactless credit cards. Or
I
regular
highly
credit
doubt that.
cards, in order to avoid touching cash altogether or avoid touching the payment terminal. Americans are already well postured to use these electronic payments as a matter of convenience before the pandemic. Like I said, only about 30% of all transactions taking place in the US are done via cash. So maybe this will cause Americans to take even greater steps toward becoming a more cashless society. But it isn't just electronic payments. A lot of the American lifestyle is built around convenience. And there's really nothing more convenient than a drive-through, or as Germans call them, drive-ins. Drive-throughs are incredibly common in the US. Nearly every one of our near 250,000 fast food restaurants are equipped with a drive-through. But you'll also find them at banks, certain liquor stores, laundromats, vehicle service shops, coffee shops, pharmacies, certain gas stations selling food, and even some grocery stores will have curbside pickup available for its customers to where they don't even have to go inside to get their own groceries. Given their structure, drive-thrus are very compatible with the type of social distancing measures coronavirus has led to. So it seems that what's been criticized by many non-Americans as enabling laziness has actually proven very useful under these circumstances. In Germany, there are some drive-ins with fast food restaurants, of course, but it's really nothing compared to the US. Even at most gas stations in Germany, you have to go inside in order to pay for your gas, instead of being able to pay at the pump like you can in the US. In non-pandemic circumstances, this typically isn't an issue for most people, but we're now finding ourselves in a situation where going inside of businesses is dangerous. So I'm left to wonder if German companies are starting to look at ways that they can service their customers without them having to come inside if it isn't truly necessary. After the 2008 recession, we heard a lot of talk about how business strategies were focused on being recession-proof. Well, now businesses might start to look at becoming pandemic-proof, whether that means ramping up delivery services, offering individual consultations and private shopping, or having a window or some sort of table outside of your restaurant where people can order and pick up their food. But one thing a lot of German restaurants have over American restaurants is outdoor seating. This is one of the many things that I really loved about living in Germany and visiting Europe, because it's just not that common in the US to be able to sit outside at a cafe or a restaurant. And if there is outdoor seating, it's oftentimes still under some sort of awning or roof. So you're not out in the open air like you find yourself at a restaurant
Sign of
in
the
Germany
storm.
or throughout Europe. And of course, I'm not comparing city to city, but more so smaller towns in the US compared to Germany's small towns. And as our restaurants start to slowly open up here, restaurants that have outdoor seating have the advantage because it's considered to be safer. So it would certainly be nice to have more outdoor seating at small town cafe and restaurants like in Germany. Also, with American restaurants and some other businesses, I'm a little worried that this pandemic might lead to even more waste if businesses start looking to one-time use and disposable solutions for keeping their business or their restaurant sanitary. I'm not as worried about this happening in Germany because Germans are much more environmentally conscious, and there are already a lot of policies and regulations in place that would discourage this type of solution. Another thing that I've been thinking a lot about is American small talk and how this pandemic might curtail the inclination Americans feel to engage in small talk with strangers. Small talk, first and foremost, requires you to be in close proximity of someone else. And so with people in grocery store lines being spread 6 feet apart from one another, or elevator capacity being reduced to 1 or maybe 2 people, and people on sidewalks being sure to stay apart from one another, the occurrence of small talk is bound to dwindle. Furthermore, a lot of Americans have a tendency to smile at one another while walking by on the sidewalk, but wearing a mask obscures your facial expression, and so maybe it will become more common to nod instead of smile, or maybe acknowledging one another will cease altogether. And for Germans, I have to wonder if public smoking will dissipate at all. The amount of public smoking in Germany compared to the US is very distinct, and being enveloped in
Oh God,
a
he's
cloud
French.
of someone's smoke is usually my very first signal that I am back in Germany after spending some time in the US. But with everyone wearing masks outside, I'm wondering if this will affect the preponderance of smoking in Germany. Next, I want to talk about homeschooling. Schools across both Germany and the US began to shut down in the March timeframe, which meant that parents found themselves suddenly thrusted into the role of teacher for their children for weeks on end. In Germany, homeschooling is illegal, and so the concept of a parent serving as teacher for their child is really quite foreign, and this circumstance sort of forced Germans to rethink homeschooling. Now, I'm not at all implying that suddenly Germans agree with homeschooling, but it certainly forced them to adapt to a departure from the legal norm and explore the possibility of homeschool, which pre-pandemic I don't think was a thought on any German's mind. In the US, I know a lot of my friends and many other parents really struggled with having to suddenly homeschool their children, especially if their school wasn't prepared to shift to an online curriculum or platform. But at least there wasn't a cultural hurdle that had to be negotiated, because not only is homeschooling legal in all 50 states, but some 2 million students, or 3% of the student population in the US, are regularly homeschooled under normal circumstances. And of course, after talking about schools being shut down, I need to talk about places of work being shut down. With some variances, non-essential businesses in both Germany and the US were shut down right alongside schools, which meant that a lot of Germans and Americans began to work from home, or as Germans say, do home office. And of course, this really helped working parents because they were able to stay home and care for their children in the absence of open daycares and schools. But it was a massive change for both Germans and Americans alike. Now, Germany is well known for its strong labor laws and its healthy work-life balance. German employees are given a good amount of vacation time, they're given parental leave and medical leave, and they're expected to work reasonable hours. In the US, the work environment can be quite different, depending on where you live and work and who your employer is. An American employee might get very few days of vacation time, no parental leave, and little medical leave, or they might not get any of that. American workers often feel obligated to go to work while sick because otherwise they might not get paid that day, or they'll have to use their very few and precious days of medical leave. I think that coronavirus is very much challenging this sort of standard that we've set for ourselves, because now we know that the virus was further spread by people who were sick with COVID-19 still going to work. And I think that going forward, employers or perhaps even the government may look at increasing sick call mandates in order to discourage workers from going to work while they're sick. Furthermore, a part of US work culture is this underlying pressure to work insanely long hours in order to look like a good employee. I've worked in several offices where people will come in 1 hour or 2 hours early and then stay several hours into the night consistently for no reason that was really apparent to me. It's not like they had so much work to do that they couldn't possibly get it done within the normal working hours. But with everyone working from home, this idea of being seen as the first one into the office and the last one to leave has been completely eliminated. And perhaps when we all go back to work, this pressure to work these insanely long hours will be eradicated. And hopefully this will lead to more Americans having a healthier work-life balance. But going back to the subject of school, the primary difference between the US college experience and the German university experience is the cost, but also the heightened social atmosphere and numerous extracurricular activities that US colleges offer compared to German universities. Right now, US colleges are trying to figure out how they're going to manage reopening their campuses for the fall semester, if at all. And for those that do decide to open, it's going to be a very different experience compared compared to what it was before the pandemic, since a lot of the social activities that truly shape a U.S. college student's experience will most likely be limited or restricted in some sort of fashion. Furthermore, if these college-sponsored activities are restricted, and especially if a college decides that it's going to keep its campus closed and continue to only offer classes online, it begs the question of whether students attending that college should have to pay the full price of tuition. And I'm wondering how this is going to add to the ongoing discussion about the really high cost of American college tuition. The wellness industry, as Germans call it, is very popular in Germany.
Where's Rexar
It's
here?
homes with different saunas and spas dedicated to the promotion of one's health.
Oh, I never did the
And there are even
quest lines for a horde,
dedicated to
for the
this
horde.
and while Germans do take a lot of precautions in keeping these saunas and spas hygienic, for example, you have to take a shower before entering, it's really challenging to keep these facilities fully sanitized during all of the operating hours because customers are constantly cycling in and out of pools, saunas, showers, and chairs. So I'm really interested to see exactly how Germany's wellness industry is going to adapt its different policies, procedures, and practices in order to accommodate its customers' concern for sanitation. Something else that really sets Germans apart from Americans is their exquisite public transportation infrastructure. Between Germany's train system, buses, city metros, and honestly their city planning, most people can comfortably live without owning a car. This is not the case in the U.S. With the exception of those who live in large cities, Americans are highly dependent on their cars. Now, some areas of the U.S. are slowly making progress in improving their public transportation infrastructure, but in a coronavirus era, Americans will most likely cling to their cars more than ever before, since it gives them total autonomy over who they're trapped in a small space with. I don't know if Germans will grow to become more hesitant about riding their trains, and if that hesitance would even supersede other factors to consider when riding a train, for example, the climate, but it certainly isn't a great time to try to introduce Americans to the idea of using public transportation over their cars. Another aspect of American culture that I think we're well known for around the world is our strong support for our military. Whether it's through the billions of dollars that Americans give the military every year through their tax dollars, or through commercial businesses offering various military and veteran discounts, or just a general support of troops mentality. Americans often call their service members heroes, and surveys consistently show that Americans offer more respect to their service members than nearly any other profession. But with this pandemic, suddenly the definition of hero has been redefined in the U.S. to include healthcare workers, teachers, and other essential workers like truckers and grocery store cashiers. And I'm wondering if in the future in the U.S. there will be less pandering toward military service members and perhaps more appreciation shown toward these types of professions. Maybe we'll start to see healthcare worker discounts or first responder discounts just as frequently as we see military discounts. Another thing Americans are known to have are stricter alcohol laws, especially compared to Germany. In the U.S., the law is very state to state, but in general, you're not allowed to drink in public, and restaurants are not allowed to let you leave their premise with an alcoholic drink. However, in the wake of this pandemic, the restaurant industry has been devastated, and in an effort to help soften the blow, state lawmakers have loosened restrictions to allow the sale of alcohol to go. When restaurants all begin to open again, I wonder if states will reconsider allowing these looser alcohol laws under normal circumstances, since I think the argument can now be easily made. Another difference between German and U.S. culture is the average size and type of our homes. In Germany, it's more common to live in an apartment or a smaller house than it is in the U.S., where most Americans live in houses and larger houses at that. In 2016, the average U.S. home was 2,640 square feet, which is about 2 happy, holed up in my apartment without any issues. So I'm not saying that Germans have any sort of disadvantage by having a smaller average sized home. I just think that it's interesting to think about. I also have the big assumption that probably more Americans own home gyms compared to Germans because they have so much more space on average, whether it's a larger garage or an entire spare room to be able to house that equipment. And so I have to wonder if when gyms were shutting down in both the US and Germany, if Americans still had more access to workout equipment compared to Germany. And speaking of homes, I've been thinking a lot about how in American homes, particularly older homes, you still see a lot of doorknobs compared to Germany, where I didn't see a single doorknob, everyone had door handles. And of course, to operate a doorknob, you have to fully grip the knob in order to turn it, whereas with a door handle, you can push it down with your elbow or the back of your hand or literally any part of your body or object. And I would think that this has to reduce the
Yep, that's actually what I'm doing. I never grab the thing wholly.
deals with grocery stores. And if you watch my channel regularly, then you probably have already picked up on the fact that I really like to talk about German and US grocery store differences. And one thing I've talked about before is that in German grocery stores, you have to either bring your own reusable bags or you have to pay for plastic bags there, and they will be like the thicker plastic bags, not like the ones from the US. Now in the US, there are certain cities or counties that have completely banned plastic bags or that require the customer to pay a fee per bag they use from the grocery store. And then of course there are plenty of Americans who bring their own reusable bags to the grocery stores with them. However, one of the public health measures taken by some cities, like San Francisco for example, was banning customers from being able to bring their own reusable grocery bags into the store with them. Because the idea is that if a person has the virus in their home, then it's probably also on their grocery bag. And they don't want people then bringing that virus-ridden bag into the store, putting it on the grocery shopping cart, handing it to the cashier, placing it on the cashier's counter, and effectively spreading the virus everywhere that bag is touching. Now, I don't think that this was a precaution taken anywhere in Germany, and I would actually be really shocked if it was, but I thought that it was really interesting.
It is.
Alright.
You aren't even allowed to not use a shopping cart. You have to use the shopping carts well, from the shop.
What actually got me thinking about this topic is a video.
You're not allowed. Basically, you're not allowed to carry all your shit. You're supposed to touch everything you buy as little as possible.
This hub actually came into existence because of the 1918 pandemic. So who knows what's going to come out of this pandemic? And that we will look at 20, 30, 40 years from now and remember, wow, we have this item or this process or this business because of the 2020 pandemic. So I'm curious to hear what your thoughts are, what your ideas are, how you think it's shaping our culture. Make sure you put all of those in the comments below. As always, if you like this video, let me know by giving it a big thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Find me on Instagram if you're not following me yet. I post stories on there all the time for you guys to be able to keep up with me and point out different US and German cultural differences. Thank you so much to all of my patrons for the support you've given me, and I will see you guys. Bye!
It's too far away. something first.
Hi everyone, thank you so much for coming to watch my video today. Danke, dass ihr da seid. Ich bin Taylor, ich bin eine US-Amerikanerin, die seit ein paar Jahren in Deutschland wohnt und arbeitet. My name is Taylor and I'm a US American that's been living and working in Germany these past few years. And today I want to talk to you guys about a topic that I thought could be particularly helpful to someone that's maybe considering just visiting Germany or moving to Germany, or even just someone that wants to learn German, and that is how I personally became fluent in German. And this is a long and winding process, but I'm going to go through a few of the tips and tricks and ways that I managed to learn German, and what I think is the most efficient way to learn and what I think is less efficient and maybe not as much fun. Just to give you a run through of what I'm going to be discussing today, the different topics, I'm going to start with talking about formal classes. So I'm going to talk about my experience with high school German classes in the United States. Then I'm going to discuss a little bit about my university classes that I took, and then also what other kinds of language classes are out there that you could potentially take that might be able to help you achieve fluency. Then I'm going to talk about media, so I'll be discussing things like watching TV shows, listening to music, what I thought about that, and if it did any good to me or if it helped me in any way. Then I'm going to move on to my personal favorite, and that is befriending a German, or finding and collaborating with a tandem partner, and I'll explain a little bit about what that means. And then I will talk a little bit about the apps that are available. You've probably heard a few of them, like Duolingo or Babbel, and I'll talk about my own personal experiences using those apps and what I think of them. And then finally, I'll talk about the advantages of actually coming to Germany. So this includes exchange semesters, exchange years, coming here fully for your degree like I did, or even moving to Germany long term. So I'll discuss a little bit about those options that might be possible for you. Before we dive in, if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. It really helps me and it allows me to see that people really enjoy the content that I'm creating, so that would be very much appreciated. Also, before we start, I want to clarify what I mean by fluent. So, if you heard my German before, it was grammatically correct. I also approved it by my German boyfriend before I said it because I didn't want to make a mistake and embarrass myself. So in German, I'm what is considered a C1, and this is just according to the standardization that they have in Germany that they use at the university level primarily. And this is a way that you just categorize what level your language skills are at. With these levels, you start at A1, and you have, for like classes, sometimes you also have A11, A12, and you can then move up through the ranks, A, B, and C, and the highest that you can achieve is C2, which is pretty much as though you speak as though you're a native speaker. And I just want to qualify that I'm not perfect when I speak German. I still make mistakes, and I feel like anyone that started learning a language as an adult or as a teenager like I did, it's very, very difficult to achieve perfect fluency to the point where people wouldn't know that it's not your native language. I probably will have an accent for the rest of my life while I speak German, an American accent, and I will never fully get my article straight. Der, die, das, den, dem, des. I'll have to hear it 1,000 times in the correct way for me to really soak it in and be able to parrot it back. So those are things that I still really struggle with, but these small things don't inhibit people from understanding me. I've never really had a huge issue with comprehension from other people when I speak German. Now, of course I did when I was, when my German wasn't as good, but now I would say that like my German is technically, according to like the levels C1, I am fluent in German. So yeah, I just kind of want to take
C1
you
is really
through
good.
my experience learning German. Like I said, it was a long process. I started learning German at 13 years old in high school or middle school, like a lot of Americans when they choose a language class. And yeah, let's get started with the first thing then. The first thing would be formal classes. So like I said, it started in middle school. I had like one trimester of German, and then really I started in high school German. I had one class a day. I started at the very beginning with a lot of my peers, and we had like 50-minute classes. What I'm going to say about high school classes is it's really what you make out of it. I think if you're truly motivated to learn German, you'll take the class more seriously and you'll take the resources that they give you and really try to soak up as much of that knowledge as you can. I mean, 50 minutes a day is a lot of time, so you could get quite far in your high school German classes. I personally, when I moved to Germany, so that was after my 4 years of high school German, I had a B1, which is intermediate, which is quite good. This is actually good enough that you could study in Germany in German.
Yeah.
So if you really do take your high school classes seriously because you know, I want to be fluent in German one day, it's definitely possible for you to learn quite a bit during that time, because I think face-to-face time is the most important thing when it comes to learning a language, or at least it was for me. Then again, there are some variables that might hold you back, like if you had a bad teacher. I was really fortunate that I always had really great language teachers. Shout out to Herr Weber and Herr Rixmann, if you watch my videos. But yeah, so it really just depends on that. And like I said, if you can take that time as seriously as possible, I would, because you'll never really get another chance in life where you get free classes where you have so much contact time. So if you already know, maybe someday I want to travel to Germany or I want to do an exchange semester, just like take that time seriously and learn as much as possible in those 4 years. Now, like I said, FaceTime is important, and that's one of the reasons why I didn't find my university classes to be super helpful, is because a lot of times in university you're only in class for like 1.5 hours to 2.5 hours, at least that was how it was for me, a week. And it's just not very helpful in learning a language, I think, when you don't have that contact time, that face-to-face time, and you're also paying a lot of money for these classes. So I would say that my formal university language classes were less helpful than my high school classes were, which is surprising because it was like a higher level and also you just pay so much more money for it. But that was my opinion. There are also other ways to learn a language while taking a formal class. So in Germany, you have something called the Goethe Institute, and this is where a lot of people go to take formal classes, but that you can also take very intensive classes. I've also, not for German, but for Spanish, here in Germany, gone to a Volkshochschule, which is like maybe similar to a community college in the US, except you don't get degrees there, but it's for adults that kind of want to maybe take a business class or learn a language or learn something technical. Like if they've never worked with Microsoft Office before, they could go to a Volkshochschule and just take a class on that. So I did that for Spanish, and I took an intensive course, but you also have to pay for it. I think I paid 300 euros for 3 months, and we met 1 day every week for 4 hours, which was like the best possibility for me at the time. So those are a few of the options that you have. Like, obviously my experience was in Germany, but you probably have similar options in the US, that you have like language schools that you can go to as an adult once you're out of high school or out of college. I really appreciate formal classes because I'm also the kind of person that thrives on some sort of organization, some sort of organized group meeting where I need to be there at a specific time and place. I paid good money to be there at that time and place. So that gives me kind of this motivation. I don't know if you guys ever have this, but there are just times where I want something really bad. And for some reason, I get home from my 8-hour day or my 10-hour day and I just can't do anything else. I cook dinner, I maybe go to the gym, and then I sit at the TV and I watch TV for like 3 hours in the afternoon. And I don't want to like blame myself for this. It's just sometimes happens. But if you're taking a formal class, you're more likely to show up, I feel like, than if, for example, you have an app that you downloaded and you can do it whenever you want. I mean, people are different. I know there's some people that would appreciate that kind of flexibility and would still hold themselves somehow accountable through intrinsic motivation or whatever it is. But I'm someone that definitely thrives more when I have something organized for me. So moving on to the next topic, that is media. So, funny story. I became quite serious in high school about wanting to learn German. I have this tendency to get fixated on things. I didn't really have a plan for the German yet, but I remember distinctly when I was in my junior year of high school that I was trying to find different ways of interacting with German, and also so that I could learn more. And I became very interested in German pop culture, which surprisingly I'm not really anymore now that I live in Germany. But I started listening to quite a bit of German music, and I also started watching, funny, weird, The Walking Dead in German. I just went online and I legally streamed The Walking Dead in German, just so, because I had already watched a few of the seasons in English, and I knew, okay, it's an action series. There's not a ton of complicated dialogue where I wouldn't be able to understand what's going on. And I already know what's going to happen anyway, so I already watched it in English, then I watched it in German, and I was picking up their new vocabulary, and I would really suggest this being actually one of the things that you do if you're serious about learning German as a language, because it really helps your comprehension. And it's also fun and interactive in a way. You don't have to just sit there in a 2-hour-long class and talk with people about the topics that are put before you. You really can immerse yourself in a very different but also fun way with the language. I'm not a huge fan of German television. We don't even have really cable that we watch here. I know that some people like RTL, which is like, what's the American equivalent? It's kind of like the American TLC almost. I don't even know. I don't really care for German television that much. German music is, I listen to a few
Nobody
bands, at
does.
least my boyfriend does, but I'm not
TV's dead.
super into it. People can comment below if you have any recommendations for me of things that you think that I should absolutely see. But it's also possible to watch American films and American TV series in German. You just have to find it online, or if you have Netflix, they might have, for example, a series that's dubbed in German. So that's a great way, I think, that you can interact with German as well. Okay, now I wanted to talk about my favorite point, and I really think that this is the best way that you can learn German, even if you're not in Germany, if you're in the United States, or wherever you might be. If there are Germans at your work, at your university, at your school, whatever it is, seek them out. You don't necessarily have to like befriend them. I think that's a bit fake if you're not actually interested in being their friend, but maybe they're interested in something called being a tandem partner. A tandem partner is just someone that you find that speaks a language that you want to learn, and you speak a language they want to learn, and you sit together over a coffee or over lunch or something like that, and you just pretty much speak half the time in one language and half the time in the other, so both people gain something from that. And I'm assuming that if there's a German in the United States at like a university or something like that, maybe their English isn't perfect and they also want to improve their language. Or maybe you speak a different second language that they would like to learn. I think that this is just a very great opportunity to have some face-to-face contact with someone that speaks the language that you want to learn. I mean, there's 4 main ways that you improve a language or that you learn a language, and that's writing, reading, listening, and speaking. And listening, speaking is, in my opinion, those are the most important things, especially if you're like planning on traveling to Germany and you just like want to be able to have conversations with people. And honestly, get a tandem partner, befriend a German. They always want to speak English as well. They're so helpful, and it's just really the best way. I've never done it with German, but I've done it with Spanish, and I've just had the best experiences, so I would really recommend that to anyone. All right, next is probably my least favorite option, simply because it just personally didn't work for me, and that is apps. So there are a ton of language apps. The 2 biggest would probably be Duolingo and Babbel. And I know with Babbel you do have to pay for a subscription, a monthly subscription, or also yearly. And Duolingo is a free resource. And for whatever reason, I just could never stay motivated enough to stick it out long term. I would start, I've done it more for Spanish than I have for German, but I would start doing it and I would get really into it for 2 or 3 weeks, and then I would just peter off, and I had no one to hold me accountable. Even like notifications on my phone, I think they made me feel a little bit guilty that I wasn't doing it, but not guilty enough that I went on doing it. You know what I mean? So, I mean, I think there are other people out there that will love, like I said, the flexibility of it. Duolingo, like I said, is free, which is great because a lot of these other resources you have to pay for. So, I mean, it might be a good option for other people, but for me, I don't think that I have learned very much on either of those. I mean, I guess Duolingo is also great because I know that they have like grammar sections. So for every lesson that you do, they also have a small grammar area where they talk about why things are a certain way. And I'm not sure if all apps have that, but at the same time, it's also quite repetitive. I'm not sure if it's enough that it really sticks in your brain. I guess it's for everyone different, like I said. So yeah, take that with a grain of salt if you are really still interested in using an app. Maybe it's something that's great on the side while you're pursuing a language course as your primary means of learning the language, but it's up to you in the end. All right, my final point, you guys, is the most important thing that I think that anyone could do, and that is spend time in Germany. Even if it's just a class trip where you come here for a month, if you want to come and do an exchange year, this is possible in high school and in university. Honestly, the only thing there are a few things that could hold you back. Money, for example, could be one of them. But if money isn't a huge issue, I think the thing that holds a lot of people back is just a fear of the unknown and a fear of putting yourself outside of your comfort zone. I mean, I know firsthand, I was terrified before I moved to Germany. For you guys that have followed my channel, you'll know that I moved to Germany at 18 years old to study and get my bachelor's degree here. I had 2 suitcases. No one came with me. I flew off from Chicago O'Hare Airport by myself, and it was terrifying. But in the end, there are a ton of great resources. I'll actually link a video as to how I moved to Germany and the whole process that I went to, first for university and then as a job seeker. So maybe that'll help you guys as well. But really, just come here. If you are able, if you have the financial resources to, come learn about the culture, come speak German and improve your German skills. I think that this is just the absolute best way that you can learn a language, is to fully immerse yourself 100%. So yes, that would definitely be my number one recommendation for any of you that are out there. Really push yourself outside of your comfort zone. Another thing that I forgot to mention is au pairing. You probably know what this is, but if you don't, it's just where usually a younger person that's taking some time before going to university or between degrees, they'll come to a different country primarily to learn a language or also for adventure, what have you, and they'll watch after children, and that'll be kind of their full-time job, and they'll live with the family whose children they're looking after, and they'll also get some sort of small compensation every week so that they can also do things on the side. And then you'll have your evenings and usually also weekends free, so you can travel a little bit around the country and things like that. So that might be also a really great opportunity, and maybe that would be an option for you as well. All right, you guys, I think those were my 5 top ways that I've learned German, how you guys could potentially learn German. I hope this was super helpful. If you have any other tips for other people looking to learn German, leave them in the comments below. I think that could be really helpful. If you have any experiences, things that work for you, things that didn't, also comment that below. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and I will see you guys next week. Okay, bye. Before I dive in, if you haven't already subscribed to my channel, I would very much appreciate it if you do so.
Interfere in my affairs. What makes you think you can oppose my will?
It is the law of the wild. The strong take from the weak.
Enjoy this victory. It will be your last.
The pearl is ours. With it, our vessels will become predators of the sea. Now then, time to carve a trophy.
Why is there no druid? Lee, hunter, whatever this is, warrior. Two hunters. That sounds good. um. Jesus Christ. god.
What do you need?
Many deals for a friend of the Grummels. He's like you.
Speak, friend.
Wait, I never farmed Ogrimmar. Reputation? What? Oh. That sucks.
I have many wares.
Oh my There's only 2 items left that I could upgrade in normal. Oh, no, wait, it's actually more. Forgot the 440 items. Last few bosses dropped 440 shit.
To prevent my father from eradicating all organic life, we need to gain entry into his subterranean fortress city. To prevent my father from eradicating all organic life, we need to gain entry into his subterranean fortress city. Luckily, the flying mechanical terror that patrols this region has a control module that can open the gates. Assaulting it head-on would be ill-advised, but disabling its remote power nodes should render it vulnerable. The nodes are scattered throughout the junkyard. I've calibrated my sensor to detect them. I'm not afraid. I need to get closer. Your assessment is out. I need a target. Statistical anomaly. Our visitors are still alive. Time to introduce them to the legends of the Tussle Talks Arena. The Platinum Pummeler, and no mercy for you. I can't attack that target. The city's entrance is located just past this arena. We must hold its ground until we can clear a path to it. It's too far away. Not to worry. I need to get closer. I need to get closer. It's too far away. I need to target something first. I need a target. I'm out of round. I need to get closer. I'm out of range. I need to target something first. It's too far away. I'm out of range. You can't attack that. I need to get closer. It's too far away. I'm out of range. I need to get closer. It's too far away. I need to get closer. Excessive levels of flesh detected. Attention, citizen. Please remain in your domiciles. Guards are currently en route to quell the disturbance.
It's too far away. I'm out of range. Too far away. I need a target.
You dismantled a few of my lesser inventions. You possess a modicum of skill. It will prove insufficient against my newest prototype.
I need to target something
Invaders have made
first.
it past the outer defenses. I want their stench removed from my city.
I have activated all civic defenses, my king. Rest assured, these organisms will be expunged from our metropolis.
Do not allow these bots to detect you. Remaining within the steam will shield you from their sensors. Warning, excessive
Shit.
flesh detected. Warning, excessive levels of flesh detected. Warning. Warning, excessive levels of flesh detected. Warning.
Dead.
It's too far away. Target. Commandeer that transport to access Mechagon's tower.
So, my misguided son returns. I'm impressed you made it this far.
You are no longer my father. Just a malfunctioning machine that must be shut down.
Poor child. If only you could accept the truth. The curse of flesh has run rampant across Azeroth.
I need to get closer.
And I will replace it with mechanical purity.
I'm out of range. I need to get closer. too far away.
Elude my target. You cannot elude my targeting system.
I need to get closer. I can't get that down.
Fools! All you have done is dismantle a piece of furniture. You wish to test my true and happily oblige. All power to weapons. Magnetic grapple engaged.
Beware.
Shit.
The mech originator has been destroyed. And so has my father. You have my gratitude,
Oh
heroes.
my god.
Know that King Mechagon's vision of the world is not one my people share. We must now focus on rebuilding. But if you ever require our assistance, you need only request it.
Huh. This partnership wasn't half bad. Reminds me how profitable working with you Alliance mooks can be.
Thanks to Team Master Overspark's leadership, the threat of world annihilation was averted.
Oh, don't forget to mention my technical prowess in dismantling those mechanical monstrosities.
Of course, sir.
What? What? Oh, he needs the ring. She. It. Whatever. Haste. Yeah. Because I needed both. What do you mean? If he asks for the thing. Maybe. Oh my god. It's mine. It's fine. As your dog. Okay, master is shit for both. But this one is happening. You're flying 280.
Hi everyone, thank you so much for coming to watch.
He looks like the Metatron. What?
Which equals 1,800 euros a year, and then you multiply that by 5. Hi everyone, what is up? My name is Haley. Welcome to my YouTube channel. If you did not know, now you do. Hey you guys, what's up? So in today's video, I'm going to be talking about a very taboo topic, which is money. And I feel like German people don't like openly speaking about money, but here I am.
Oh, come on.
Let everyone know
Fuck
the
you.
inside
You
of
just
my
gave me,
pocketbook
you
and my
just
savings
flew me
account
over
and all
there
that
for
good
the
stuff.
stupid
I'm going to be
bitch.
talking about how much money I have personally spent or would have personally spent in Germany. There are going to be some points where I can't give a definite answer or a personal answer, and I'll go more into detail about that later in the video. Please note that in this video I am speaking about Munich, which is one of
Would have
the
gotten
most,
the
if not the most
fly
expensive
thingy.
city to live in Germany. So if you hear a very high number, a ridiculous number, it's most likely because I lived in Munich and it was just crazy expensive there. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe and follow me on Instagram. It's free. The only thing in this video that's going to be free. How I'm going to start this video, you guys, is I'm going to go with what I feel like are the most important topics when it comes to living expenses, and then I'm going to talk about like all the miscellaneous stuff that I spent my money on, which I feel like is what a lot of people are watching this video for. The first one is going to be accommodation. A lot of people always ask me how much money they should spend on housing, how much money it's going to cost in housing. Now Munich, like I said, is very expensive, and I can't give you an exact amount because I never paid rent since I was an au pair and nanny. I think 80% of the time or 90% of the time that I was in Germany, I did not pay rent. So the people I worked for, they paid either my rent or I lived with them. So that equated to me not having to pay a high sum in rent. But I can give you guys an estimate of how much I wanted to spend when I was looking for apartments on my own. I remember maybe 3 to 4 years ago, I was searching for apartments in Munich within like a little bit of the city center, not too far out. And I was looking for a WG, which is a Wohngemeinschaft, or roommates, or roommate, depending on how many people you have in your home. And I was looking at around 300 to 500 euros a month, all inclusive with electricity, heating, water, Wi-Fi, and all that good stuff. And I think 3 to 4 years ago, that was around the average amount of money that you would spend for a WG. But then when I see on Facebook or eBay, Kleinanzeige, or wherever I'm looking, Wohnungsgesuch or Gesuche, I don't know what it's called. But when I look, I see now that around 500 to 600 euros is the average for a nice room in a WG. Now when I was looking with Mike for a Wohnung, we were willing to pay 1,100 to 1,500 euros with everything included, and we were going to split that right down the middle. We wanted 2 rooms, ab 2 Zimmer. We wanted at least 60 Quadratmeter. We wanted a little bit outside of the city, which put us in a good range, I feel like, because you get more bang for your buck when you go out of the city. And granted, there were apartments that were probably 800 euros a month for what we were looking for, but we were trying to get just a little bit nicer. But we did find apartments that fit our budget, so to say, because some people are going to say that's way too expensive or way too cheap. There's always going to be, you know, someone on each side saying that the number's wrong, but we did have options, and we did find a lot of apartments that we really liked for 1,100 until 1,500. Then going on to the next point, which is transportation. I feel like this is also a humongous chunk of change for some people. When I lived in the city center, it was only 50 euros or 55 euros a month, and then I had a bike. Having a bike is amazing. It's a cheap alternative, it's free exercise, and it usually gets you faster sometimes than public transportation or owning a car. Then when I moved to Mike's, I had to pay 160 to 180 euros a month for public transportation. I don't know if it was 160 or 180. I do know that it was 100 something euros more than what I paid in the city because Mike lives on Auschwitz. And then when I realized that I was going to pay 180 euros per month, I thought to myself, maybe I'll get a car. So then I looked at the cheapest leasing rates that they had, which was for a Fiat at the time, and a Fiat was 100 euros a month, but I had to get insurance, and my insurance was around 400 to 500 euros a month. I would have to pay, or not 400 to 500 euros a month, 400 to 500 euros for 6-month premium, which equated to around 110 to 120 euros a month extra. And then I'd have to pay for gas, and I don't know how much gas is, and I can't give you an estimate. It'd probably been like 60-ish maybe a month. So I'd probably have to spend around 300 to 400 euros a month for a car with insurance, maintenance and gas which for me didn't seem worth it. It sucked not having flexibility and living outside of the city and having a bus and tram schedule that was really sucky, but I just could not afford in my head a car. But some people, they buy really cheap cars and drive it till the wheels come off and don't care, and maybe I should have done that. That probably would have been a better, cheaper alternative. The next one is also going to be the biggest chunk of money for me, and I think there's a backstory that goes behind why it's so high, because doing research I found that people that made videos talking about how much money they spent in Germany usually spent around 100 to 150 euros a month on groceries, and mine was so much more than that. When I was working as a nanny, the people I worked for were very generous and giving me a budget that was very flexible when it came to food, and they also paid for my food when we went out to eat. I was so accustomed to this lifestyle of eating these expensive craft, foods, not all the time. Sometimes they ate the foods as well, but they just ate like, I don't even know, nice cheeses, nice meats, nice steaks. I took that lifestyle and tried to bring it over with me to Mike, and I couldn't afford it. I tried to afford it for a very long time, and I did spend the money to keep up this lifestyle, this food habit that I had. And so I spent around 300-ish euros a month on groceries alone, which was really stupid because I would do things like buying the €6 bag of organic whatever noodles instead of buying the 85-cent euros off brand that probably tastes the exact same, and I couldn't live like that because it was not attainable with the money that I was earning. Coming to the end of me being